Hey guys, it's Mike here, and welcome to another review of Dragon Ball Super, in which I'm going to be reviewing Dragon Ball Super Episode 67 and giving my thoughts on it. Now, I do have a lot to talk about regarding this episode, and, so I'm not going to put a lot of editing into this review because I feel like there's going to be way too much I'm going to be talking about that's going to be covering that. So this is going to be more something that you can listen to when you're doing something else, or you could just open it up in another tab and go about doing what you're doing. But overall, I'm going to be talking about this episode. First off, I'm going to run through what happened, and then run through what I liked and what I didn't like so much, because there's going to be a good amount of that too. So, without further ado, let's get into this review. Now, to start off with this episode, it pretty much left off in the same place as last week's, where Zamasu is seemingly defeated by Trunks with that Spirit Bomb sword and that interesting power-up that he has, saying that everyone's power helped him. Zamasu was laughing, and then he just vaporized into nothingness. However, Zamasu, the immortal part, or perhaps the fused version, they don't really make it clear, appears in the sky as an astral celestial form covering the planet. Goku and Vegeta try to go Super Saiyan Blue, but they're too low on energy due to the final Kamehameha, which doesn't really make a lot of sense because you'd think that they were low on energy due to not donating their, because they donated their energy to Trunks, right when he was attacking Zamasu, but whatever. All three attack Zamasu, which does nothing. Gowasu says that Zamasu may be trying to become the universe, casting off his godly form, and thus he begins spreading throughout space, time, and the universe itself. He rains down attacks on the Earth, killing everyone but the main cast, and as his power reaches over even to the present itself. Trunks wakes up, he says he can't sense anyone's ki, confirming that everyone else has died, and Mai freaks out, shooting up in the sky with her shotgun, and Goku looks for sensu beans, saying, oh, maybe if I have one more we could fix this, but instead finds the Zeno button. Goku presses the button, and then Zeno from this future timeline appears, and Goku hugs him, but apparently Zeno doesn't know who he is, because this is a different Zeno from the one that we're used to seeing. Goku shows Zeno Zamasu in the sky, and says, can you erase him? And then Zeno is like, yeah, a world like this shouldn't exist, so he charges up some attack and starts flying to the sky. Quickly, everyone gets into the time machine and escapes as Zeno destroys the universe. Everyone arrives back, and Beerus and Whis arrive. Goku and Trunks go to the future again, seeing Zeno floating in a strange void of nothingness, I guess, whatever's left over, the remnants of existence, and so they take him to the present timeline, as Goku says he's going to take him somewhere very interesting. Goku brings future Zeno to Zeno's palace in the present, so that the two Zenos, future Zeno and present Zeno, meet one another, and Goku tells the present Zeno that he brought him a friend just like he said he would. Daishinkan is there and asks Whis if it was his idea for all this to happen, but Whis says it was actually Goku's. Daishinkan says he envies Universe 7, and Whis says he should visit, revealing that Daishinkan is his father, which was a kind of an interesting little twist there, because, some people might have speculated, but I don't think we really knew until right now. Once they're back in the present, everyone's together at another kind of party. Whis comes up with a plan to bring Trunks and Mai to the future before Zamasu turned evil and, I guess, Black arrived. Beerus objects, as it would create more timelines and subsequently more time rings, but Whis says Beerus can't object, as him killing present Zamasu already created another timeline and a time ring, which, Toei has kind of expanded upon in the past, although this kind of seems to contradict it slightly in some ways, but whatever. Whis says he'll go to the future timeline to before Beerus died and tell him to destroy Zamasu. Goku and Vegeta object, saying that Beerus can't kill an immortal and it will just cause another loop, but Whis claims to have a much better tool than the urn that they had for the Mafuba, or the evil containment wave. When Goku questions this, Beerus tells him that they need to stop relying so much on the gods, despite the fact that they're right about to go and help everyone, I guess. However, Whis then goes on to explain that there will be two of each Mai and Trunks in this new timeline, as, it would be a new timeline with the same kind of copies of people, similar, I guess, to the present timeline, except it'll take place just a little bit before everything that went down. and he asks them if they're going to be okay with that. Mai says that she thinks it'll be alright since she'll be with the people that she has fought alongside. Beerus then says that he'll forgive Trunks out of consideration to Whis and the two of them leave. I don't know if they were going to the future or not, they didn't really make that explicitly clear. But then we see Zamasu putting away one of his time rings, or the other time ring which he was using, and saying the time ring is basically his sin, and, kind of regretting what happened with Zamasu. Then as Trunks and Mai are ready to leave, Goku says that Trunks has gotten strong enough to defeat any villains or threats whom he may encounter in the future. Vegeta actually jumps and punches at him, but Trunks' one hand blocks it, and Vegeta and the rest of them smile, showing perhaps that Trunks has in fact surpassed Vegeta after all, and really kind of lived up to that idea of what he was saying earlier in this arc when he first saw Vegeta transform into a Super Saiyan Blue and sparred with him. Then, as Trunks and Mai get into the time machine, everyone waves goodbye as they're about to leave, and they're flying up in the sky. Trunks says he'll get strong just as future Trunks did, but then suddenly Gohan and Piccolo appear in the sky in front of Trunks in the time machine, with it looking like Gohan may have been training as he was sweating and out of breath. Hopefully they're not trying to tell us Gohan is now too weak to actually fly, which would be ridiculous, but whatever. Gohan raises his fist in solidarity, respect, and saying farewell to Trunks, and Trunks remembers his future counterpart, the future Gohan, and his former master, and he cries saying that he couldn't protect the world in his world that he told Gohan that he would protect. However, the present Gohan calls out to him, telling him to be well. And so Trunks sees Gohan and future Gohan at the same time and says yes, as they take off, waving goodbye, thanking everyone, and saying until we meet again, and leaving. Which I guess is kind of reminiscent of the end of Dragon Ball GT when Goku himself also says until we meet again. But overall, that was the newest episode of Dragon Ball Super, and I don't know if I like this episode that much, to be perfectly honest. There's so much stuff that went down in this episode that I really don't like at all, and I feel like almost kind of ruined the arc for me, or at least ruined the climax of this entire arc for me, because it made almost everything that happened before it seem completely pointless, and it kind of just ruined everything that happened before it in a lot of ways, so I'm going to get into that right now, I guess. One of the things I really don't like the most is that after Trunks had seemingly killed Zamasu, after they built everything up in the last episode, after all this stuff happened, and finally we got that kind of awesome epic moment, even though not a lot of what was going on with the logistics made a lot of sense. Trunks charging up that Spirit Bomb sword and being filled with everyone's energy and cutting down Zamasu really seemed like a great way to kind of cut the series or cut this arc to its conclusion, and it didn't really do that because immediately Zamasu just comes back up and floats into the sky, as this new incorporeal astro form, which I thought was a cool concept. Again, it kind of reminded me of Gygas from Earthbound. In addition to that, it also reminded me of Thanos in the Infinity Gauntlet comic book event, which after Thanos has kind of beaten everyone, he decides to become the universe, trying to replace the celestial abstract form of the universe itself called eternity, and so he starts becoming the universe. You could see all the clouds or the space and time all reflected in his being in the sky, although with a completely different outcome than what happened here. And, it was interesting there, but then everyone attacks him and it does nothing, so Goku has to use this Zeno button to kind of fix all of their problems. However, it doesn't fix the narrative problems of this arc. In fact, it makes them significantly worse. Now, I didn't like the idea of Goku being handed this button that can call the literal god of existence to him, on a dime anytime he wants to during this arc. I thought it was almost certainly going to happen, and be used in the climax and kind of just ruin the climax of this arc. And it pretty much did, every single thing that happened up until this point was almost entirely pointless because the fact that they could just hit the button and called Zeno there to kill everyone at any time. And, it's like they spent the entire arc with Trunks saying, I'm going to defend this world, I'm going to protect this world, everything like that. But then Zamasu isn't dead, he just kills everyone, the end. No, I just don't like that at all. And then, they destroy the one universe. When you think about it, in the future Trunks, in the history of Trunks timeline, death actually matters, because I guess there's no Dragon Balls. They even made a point to say, like, Zamasu and Black destroyed all the Dragon Balls. I don't know if that counts as the Namekian ones, because why didn't they just use those for so many years to solve so many plot holes in this series? In fact, why didn't everyone just come from heaven, with their one-day visits to the Earth, and just annihilate Zamasu and Black, like, during this arc, or during, like, every other point in the history of Trunks' timeline? Because you mean to tell me that Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, Gohan, all these characters who are likely training in heaven and have been for, like, 20-plus years at this point in the show, now, wouldn't be able to, like, annihilate all these villains that have shown up, like the androids, or Deborah, or, like, Zamasu? Like, I don't know. I find that really hard to believe, especially considering how Trunks got so strong in such a short period of time. But I don't know, it really annoys me that they decided to go with this, that they decided to even insert that button, and we know it's probably Toriyama's idea. I think it was in the manga, like, this whole thing with Daishinkan and Zeno and everyone being revealed was all in the manga. It's just a dumb idea, like, honestly. And I mean, that's one of the things about Dragon Ball I've said in the past. There's lots of dumb ideas that are executed very well, but in this case it wasn't. Because Zamasu is called there, he destroys the universe, and that's it. Like, Goku and nobody else seems to really care except for Trunks that he just destroyed an entire universe. Do we even know that Zamasu and Black killed every single being in the universe other than everyone on Earth before they got to Earth? Because if not, the god of the universe just killed everyone else who was alive in the universe at the same time, all because Goku did what he did. I mean, I guess you could say that Zamasu was going to kind of do that anyway, but I don't know, it just feels like a giant cop-out for them to just bring this guy there who could have beaten him at any time, and then just have him blow up the universe, and then when they finally get back to the present, they're like, oh, well, Beerus and I, even though we keep telling you not to rely on gods, we'll just go to the future and we'll kill the other Zamasus, and you could just hang out in this consequence-free environment where, Black and the other characters never really showed up, and everything is still perfectly fine. I mean, there will be two of you. Isn't it kind of wacky? But no, it's just dumb. And I really don't like it at all. And I feel like it almost kind of not only, like, hurts and ruins this arc, but also might ruin everything with future Trunks up until this point, because his whole storyline is bringing peace to his future and, kind of saving it and fighting for it. And then we had, again, this last episode where it's like the power of the mortals all come together so that they could fight and defeat this evil god with his false idea of justice. And it's kind of similar, again, I guess, to the Buu Saga, where all the Earthlings come together with the Spirit Bomb, even though they're helped by the check-in station, all these other people, to, like, help to, defeat Majin Buu. But instead, in this arc, like, it accomplishes nothing, and then all of them die. So what was the point? Why didn't they just hit the Zeno button earlier? Why didn't... what would have been a much better ending to this arc? If they had used one of the many ideas they established throughout this arc to, actually conclude it, instead of, like, Toriyama writing Goku to meet God and be friends with him, and then have a button that calls God to him so he could literally do anything at any time he wants to and kill any villain at any time he wants to, removing all tension and removing all interest from this arc, basically. And maybe, instead of writing Goku to be a complete idiot and forgetting multiple times the sensu beans and then the jar, they could have just written the jar to not be destroyed or be fixed, or find some way to just use the Mafuba to take this immortal floating cloud in the sky and put him in there. And then Goku could bring that to Zeno and have that be his, like, friend. And, what's Zamasu gonna do? Zeno could just wipe him out in an instant. So he's just gonna have to be his bitch forever, pretty much, But instead, they didn't do that. Instead, we get wacky ending, which ruins the arc, or which ruins a lot of what was established throughout this arc. I mean, there's still, like, a lot of great things that are executed throughout this arc. There's still a lot of cool ideas. Zamasu is still arguably, like, the best villain in Dragon Ball. But, like, the ending of this arc was just so horribly botched. It's so rushed for no reason whatsoever, and with such bad decisions made. And then this episode, which is supposed to be the climax of the arc, didn't even look good, you know? Like, at least we could say about the last episode, if you didn't like a lot of the things that happened, which I still like the last episode a lot more than I do this episode, you could say the last episode looked great. This episode looked awful most of the time. Like, most of it was off-model. Most of it looked like it was just drawn for really cheap. And that's the climax of your arc. Like, that's what Toei thinks of, I guess, your investment in this show, or that's what Toei seems to, you know, consider a good conclusion, which, I'm sorry, I don't really watch a whole lot of other Toei shows, but if that's how Toei concludes arcs, and if this is, like, a good example of it, then why would I want to at this point, you know? And it's just annoying. Like, I guess Trunks and Mai are going to go to this other future and hang out with their other counterparts, and that's it. There's no more consequence to death. I mean, there's Dragon Balls in that timeline, I guess. There might be Super Dragon Balls there, but then again, it makes me question, are there not Super Dragon Balls in our universe? Like, still, because Zamasu and Black were from different timelines. Like, Black was never said to have destroyed the Dragon Balls from the main timeline, since everything was split off, especially into another timeline. So doesn't that mean that there's still Super Dragon Balls in the main timeline? And if there's Super Dragon Balls in the main timeline, why didn't they just go gather them and wish for the main, you know, for Trunks' future to be completely restored without Zamasu there? I mean, the the Super Dragon Balls seem like they could do anything, you know, so why didn't they just use them? Why didn't they go to another timeline and gather the Dragon Balls from that timeline and just wish for another timeline to be fixed, which would not, I guess, change that timeline, since they wouldn't have done anything? Nobody else was going to gather those Dragon Balls anyway. Why didn't they just do that, you know? Like, why didn't they just go back in time before Black and Zamasu destroy the Dragon Balls and wish for Trunks' future back, you know? Like, I don't know. You know, I really don't know what this show, like, again, there's some interesting ideas and elements they introduced throughout this. Like, there's still some good development with, like, present Mai and present Trunks. You know, it seems like now they like each other, and then Pilaf is saying, okay, well, you know, this future Trunks is with future Mai, so I guess you could start going after the present one, which I guess is more her age, at least physically. It seems like they're into one another, which may or may not be creepy, but, you know, aside from that, I don't know, like, it was funny to see Zeno meet other Zeno, and it was interesting to see a lot of this stuff go down, but at the end of the day, like, the ending to me just feels wrong. It just feels like this was the wrong way to go, and this was the wrong way to conclude it. They just wipe out a universe. Everything Trunks has worked for, his entire involvement in this franchise, is gone, and now I guess he's just gonna hang out in this other universe, and that's fine. Nobody cares. They're not going to get the Super Dragon Balls from that universe. I don't know. I mean, overall, I still, like, at the beginning of this arc, or at the beginning of this episode, before I saw this episode, I thought there was still a way to maybe say that this arc was better than the Buu Saga, or at least the ending was still better than the ending of the Buu Saga, because the Buu Saga is such a gigantic mess and a clusterfuck, especially the ending in the third half, or the third act, and I guess the whole second half of the arc is just a gigantic mess. So I was like, okay, this has a much better villain, this has much better stakes, it looks like a character they built up the whole arc actually beat the main villain, and then they just throw all that away in an instant by having this toddler from, you know, this present version of the toddler, or the future version, show up and just blow everything up, and that's the end. So overall, when it comes to that, I don't know anymore if this is better than the Buu Saga. I mean, I'm going to have to go back and rewatch it when I do, like, a full review of this show, or at least when I do the 10 things we liked, 10 things we didn't, you know, so on and so forth. But overall, I would have to say that this has been my review of this episode, Dragon Ball Super, and I just hope the next arc is going to be better. You know, I just hope the next arc is going to be good. Hopefully they listened to our feedback this time, and, you know, like, they had some great, interesting input this arc with Toei, you know, bringing in future Trunks, this whole storyline, you know, taking ideas that don't seem like they would be that great on the surface when we first hear about them, and making them really work out in the end, and making them really look really good, and, you know, execute them well. But then we get to this ending, and it just almost ruins everything for me. So let me know your own thoughts down below. Did you like this episode? Did you dislike it? And I guess if you're looking forward to Dragon Ball Super in the future, are you still going to keep watching the show? I know some people said they're not going to after last week's episode. So it'll be interesting to hear if you like this one. I don't know why you would, but I guess you can just let me know in the comments section. And, I guess I might be doing a predictions video. I don't even know yet. We'll have to see. I mean, overall, it seems like next episode is going to be completely inconsequential, too. But I guess we'll have to find out, but let me know your own thoughts down below, and as I always say, stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.